Good evening and welcome to, I think this is number 9 in our The Old Testament is About You. And of course we're going to focus primarily on the book of Genesis because there's so much in there about humanity and about the human nature and about its shaping and forming. I wonder how many people know that traditionally in Judaism, people were discouraged from reading Genesis, the book of Ezekiel, until they had mastered the whole rest of the Hebrew scripture. And there were reasons for that, and that was because there were so many temptations to form idolatries based on the text themselves. And I believe we've probably seen some of those idolatries formed by our fundamentalists in and outside the Orthodox Church both. And that's why we want to discuss this in a more existential manner. That is to say, how does it bear on our actual existence, our actual lives? There are two schools, in both science and in existentialism. Orthodox Christian theology is existential. St. Gregory Palamas was a great existentialist teacher. But anyway, in these two schools, the one that mankind has no meaning, the universe has no meaning, we're just sort of carbon-based organisms that happen to infest the universe by accident or something, or the other school of both science and existentialism, that mankind has very profound meaning in the universe, and the universe itself has very profound meaning. Well, the universe and the world certainly have profound meaning to us, because this is where we live. This is our home. And the universe is our backyard, rather large backyard, but nevertheless, 'tis ours. And it's filled with incredible beauty that's ours to enjoy as well. We see more, now that we see Hubble space flight, all the things that are sent back by these cameras and all. But even without that, we see such an incredible beauty. And we realize that the very profound meaning to all these things, and also that the Holy Scripture itself has far more meaning than many writers, even really profoundly Christian writers, actually give it. For fundamentalists, it is the Old Testament, particularly the Torah, the first 5 books, which the Jews call the Book of Instruction, but Christians tend to call the Book of Law. It has far more profound meaning than many of our Christian people give it. They sort of reduce it to a history or a list of reasons for punishing people. And they begin to see justice as meaning punishment, not as setting things aright. But that is actually the original meaning of justitiae in Latin, and of course the meaning of dikaiosune and dikaioma in Greek, certainly the Greek of the Scripture. Nothing juridical about them at all. I grow weary sometimes of seeing fundamentalist Protestants rummage through the Old Testament trying to find ways to hurt people, and really never really looking for ways to apply the meaning to people so that we have a more profound understanding of humanity. And that is what we're pursuing now in these talks. So we've come now to the calling of Abraham. I have put my glasses on once in a while to check the time because I can't run over time without losing the broadcast. The calling of Abraham brings us to another dimension yet. Here again, we see this great choice being made. Why did God call Abraham out of Ur of the Chaldees and lead him through that great, long, arduous path through Haran, down through Damascus, into a land where he really had no place? Nothing, didn't own anything until he bought the cave of Machpelah to bury his wife in, and he grazed his herds on what would have been sort of communal land in a way, because the Bedouin, the wanderers, all would graze their flocks wherever they could. And yet he promised this land to Abraham. And that's a story for a little bit later. But right now we want to look at the the calling of Abraham originally. Why would God call him out of that land and take him to another one? If he wanted him to be a witness to him, to the truth, to the living one, an apostle, as it were, and to give to him and Sarah both this promise. Perhaps we can only speculate. Chaldea was given over so deeply to a kind of idolatry, and the rising idea of the monarch as a divine person. And yet there perhaps is another reason. Because Canaan is in the center, at that time, in a way the center of the world, because it was there that the great empires of the world met. And there that so much of the trade and the travel passed through. The Egyptian Empire, the Chaldean Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Hittite Empire, all these others, finally the Greek Empire of Alexander of Macedon, all of these came together, encountered each other, and met each other around the area of Canaan. And so much of the information and influence between the civilizations passed through that area. So God is calling his apostle to that point, to that place, where the witness can be given through all of this activity that goes on through this area. And in a way, the center, the proper center for the dissemination of the true faith in God. So Abraham listens. We don't know how God calls. I don't want to use this sort of term that we hear from televangelists and all, God spoke to me and said. Because usually God, in that case, God speaks to you and says pretty well whatever you want him to have said. But anyway, Abraham is called, and a great challenge. Come out of your father's house, out of this land of your ancestors, and I'll lead you through a great wilderness and a desert, on a great long arduous journey, to a land you've never seen, know nothing about, and where you have not so much as a place to put your foot that you can call your own. And there I will make you the father of many nations. Well, Abraham believes, and he follows God, and goes to that place to which he's called. Now, not all of us are really called to such an extreme exercise, but we are called, and we have to make a choice. Sometimes the choice is to leave a place where we're being spiritually destroyed. Even though we have roots, even though we have a home, even though we have family people there, yet we realize that spiritually it's a place that's not satisfactory for our salvation. And we need to go someplace because our salvation is far more important than all these other considerations. And to trust God, to trust his calling, to trust him to lead us to the place where we should be. And Abraham could have said, oh, well, look, I don't have anything there. I don't have any land. I have no relatives. I have no people. If I move down there with my flocks and my sheep and my people, my tribe, people are going to resent it. They're going to be angry. But he could have found all kinds of excuses. And we might see this again a bit later when there was a certain ruler who made a wedding banquet for his son. And he called people to the wedding banquet, and they all made an excuse why they couldn't come. Abraham made no excuses. He simply packed up and went. So this is a choice, too, that we have to make very often between the things that are material that we might possess or have, and locating ourselves in a place where our salvation is more possible, where the salvation of our children will not be perhaps challenged so much. And to trust God that if we do that with a pure heart and with faith, that he will provide for us. So we make this choice between trusting God and trusting in the material things we have, and very often trusting in the roots, the family, and all these other things, and being a little bit afraid to pack up and leave and go someplace else. So we're running out of time again, so I'll have to cut this short, and we'll pick it up again in the next little broadcast.